Next we're going to have a look at intrinsic effects. So let me select a video clip. I've got effects controls already open, so straight away I'm seeing the controls for the clip. I've added no additional effects to this clip, so we're just seeing the intrinsic effects at the moment. Here's the video intrinsic effects, here's the audio. On the audio, the main intrinsic effects are volume and pan, so pan something left or right. If this was a stereo clip, there'd potentially also be a channel volume on there as well. On the video side of things, there's three sets of intrinsic effects: motion, opacity and time remapping. Motion allows you to affect the frame of the video itself, so it allows you to scale the frame up, scale it down, rotate it. Opacity allows you to affect the opacity of the clip, and time remapping allows you to change the speed of a clip and also to create variable speed effects where you put different speeds on different sections of the clip. That's something that we'll also be looking at in a later tutorial. If I open motion up first of all, here's all the controls. We have, for example, scale. If I click in here and reduce the scale down to 50%, that reduces the scale of the frame to 50%. If I type in 200%, that would scale it up. Let's just bring it down again. So we'll go 50%. The position of the frame, this is the horizontal position, this is the vertical position. What it's doing here is it's taking a point on the frame, which is known as the anchor point, and it's working out the distance of that point from the top left-hand corner of the frame. In this clip, the anchor point at the minute is right in the middle of the clip, and this is telling me that it's 960 pixels across from the top left-hand corner and 540 pixels down. If I increase this value, it's going to push the frame to the right as it moves further away from the top left-hand corner. If I decrease it, it moves it left. If I increase the vertical one, it pushes it down. If I decrease it, it pushes it up. Again, like the added effects, there's a reset button for all of the controls here, so I'm actually just going to reset that position for a minute. Uniform scale, if I untick that, allows me to adjust the width and the height of the shot independently of one another and stretch the shot. Rotation allows me to, using the numeric control there, rotate, or if I open up the little slider, there's a little clock face there, allows me to do the same thing. And that brings me on to anchor point. Now, I mentioned a second ago that the anchor point is the point of which it's working out the position of the frame from. So it picks a point in the frame known as the anchor point. That's this value here, how far the anchor point is from the top left-hand corner of the frame. Notice at the moment the anchor point also has a coordinate, and that is the same as the position at the moment. The anchor point is also the point around which something rotates. So as you can see, as I rotate here, it's rotating around the middle of the frame. Now, the main reason for moving an anchor point is to create a different rotation point in the frame. What I'm going to do is I'm going to change these values. I'm going to increase this one and increase this one. This would push the anchor point across and down. Now, it looks like the frame is moving at the moment. What's actually happening is the anchor point is moving, but the position of the anchor point isn't. So the position of the frame in relation to the screen doesn't change, but the position of the frame in relation to its anchor point does. Just watch now if I rotate, and you see it's rotating around a different point now. Let's just go back to the anchor point again, and also how to access these controls in a different way. You can actually turn on some on-screen controls in the program window over here, and you can do this in two ways. You can come up to the motion controls and click on this little square icon here. As you can see, that's suddenly given me some control points around the frame in the program window. Or alternatively, if I just click away to turn those off again, I can also do that by double clicking on the frame. With these controls on, I can then move the frame around. I can scale it up or down by dragging the little control points up or down. I can rotate it by moving close to a corner, so I get this little curly arrow symbol. That allows me to drag and rotate. As you can see, it's still rotating around the anchor point. And also with this option, I can see the anchor point. There it is. Now, if I move over the anchor point this time, this is a much nicer way of moving the anchor point because you can actually drag it around. So look, I'm going to put it just outside the top corner. And let's do a little rotate again, and you'll see it rotating now around that point. For doing any type of job like this, I personally would have both sets of controls open. The numeric controls here, and the on-screen controls. There's definitely certain things that are easier to do on screen, like move the anchor point, move the frame around, rotate it arbitrarily, or even scale it arbitrarily, where you just want it to sort of visually scale. However, there's also a lot of things that are much easier to do over here. So first of all, obviously we've got all our reset buttons, which are a big bonus. Secondly, if I want any specific amount, so for example, if I wanted to scale it to 40%, it's much easier just to type that in, or if I wanted to rotate it to 45 degrees, it's much easier to type that in. So if nothing else, just for the reset buttons, I would have these controls open, but I would pick what the easiest option is in terms of what I want to do and just use that option. what I'm going to do on the timeline for a minute is I'm just going to reduce my track height slightly, push this clip up a track, and I'm going to take another shot, just move that underneath it for a second. Now with two shots stacked up over each other, the top one will always be on front. It's a little bit like, say, layers in Photoshop. Whatever the topmost layer is what you would see in front of the layers underneath. As you can see here, as I move the top one around, it's moving with the other one in the background. I could, of course, always go in and select the other one and reduce its scale down, and maybe double click on it to change its position and create a split screen effect, for example. The other thing I wanted to show you here was opacity. So if I just reset all the motion stuff, and I'm going to adjust the opacity of the top clip. So here's opacity. I open its controls up. One of the things that's sort of unique about opacity is when you open it up, it is already designed to be what's called keyframed. Keyframing is a way of animating the effects controls, and again, this is something that we'll be looking at in a later tutorial. This little stopwatch icon, if it's blue, means that the capacity to animate something has already been turned on, and that also means that any changes you make will be keyframed. Now the danger here is if I just want to make an overall adjustment to the opacity, if I make that adjustment but then move my playhead and then make another adjustment, instead of changing the overall opacity value, it's going to create two keyframes and it would animate between the two settings that I've created. So to avoid that, I'm just going to turn off the stopwatch for the moment, and that will then just adjust the overall opacity no matter what I do. Here's the opacity value, 100%. As you can see, as I bring that down, it's going to blend the shot with the shot underneath. Another useful control that's in opacity is this blend mode option. This gives you various different ways of blending two images together, the foreground with the background. These top ones here tend to give you a darker result. The ones underneath tend to give you a lighter result. There's other ones in here that will give you a mixture. There's some that will change and invert colours. So anytime you want to blend two images together, put one over the other and have a little look through your blend modes, and you might well get some nice results. If I open time remapping up, here's a speed control. This is also set to keyframe because this is primarily designed for creating variable speeds, but I can, if I want to, increase or decrease the speed of the clip by adjusting the controls there. We'll have a look at speed independently of effects, and we'll come back to time remapping again in another tutorial.